All right, so here we go with number 19. It says instantaneous, which has got tangent built right into it, so that's a reminder for us that we are going to go find the slope of the tangent line, also known as the derivative. So we have what seems to be a chain rule situation. We got cosine outside, so the derivative of that is negative sine of the stuff times the derivative of the stuff. Cleaning that up, we turn that into negative 2 sine of 2x. We don't really need the parentheses around the 2x there. So next up, we're going to go plug in the value of pi over 6 that they gave us. And then we'll get a negative 2 sine of 2 pi over 6, which is really just negative 2 sine of pi over 3. And of course, we know our sine of pi over 3, it's up here. That's a tall triangle. So let's see, that's going to be negative 2 times the rad 3 over 2. 2's will cancel, negative rad 3. So that right there, that's the instantaneous rate of change that occurs at x equals pi over 6. All right, moving on to number 20. As soon as you hear average rate of change, we're thinking slope of the secant line. All right, so that means we're going to have basically two values to plug in. We're going to plug in one x value and plug in the other x value, and then we'll subtract the x values on the bottom. So it's just rise over run. It's just slope, old school slope. Right? There's no real derivatives here. So let's go find out what y of pi over 3 is. That would be cosine of 2 times pi over 3 minus cosine of 2 times 0. And on the bottom is already a simple little pi over 3. So cosine of 2 pi over 3, I don't have a picture yet, but let's go find that. Here's 1 pi over 3, here's 2 pi over 3. And we want the cosine, which would be negative 1/2. And of course, the sine is over here, but we don't really care about that. So let's take that negative 1/2. That'll go on top for this. Then we have cosine of 0. And we know what the cosine of 0 is. That's a 1. And then we got the pi over 3 on the bottom. So cleaning that up, we get a negative 3/2 over pi over 3. And of course, we know our old tricks where when you're divided by a fraction, you go multiply by its reciprocal instead. And we'll get negative 9 over 2 pi. So there we have it. Kind of a funky answer, but hey, we're in calculus. We can handle it. So that right there is the average rate of change for the graph of cosine of 2x over a certain interval 0 to pi over 3. That means there's a curve, cosine, and from here to here, there's a slope of negative 9 over 2 pi. That's basically what we're saying, without getting into too much detail. All right, so that's it for number 20. Now it's time to move on to this table situation. We got lots of functions up top. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to solutions here, and we can just talk through what I've already done. So when they ask for h prime of 2, right here on this first one, what you need to do is find h prime of x first. So let's take a look up here. You'll see h of x is f of x times g of x. So that's a product. So we're going to do a little product rule there. So we got our g f prime plus f g prime. Right? So then from there, we're going to go ahead and plug in our 2 for x. And as soon as you plug in that 2 on the left, you get to plug it in on the right everywhere as well. Okay? And then from there, we're going to go find g of 2. So you'll notice we're going to be in this one column right here the whole time. All right? So in fact, let me go like this. That would be easier to shade that way. So let's see, g of 2, that would be this guy right here. So there's the 5. Next we have f prime of 2, that would be this guy. So we're going to multiply those. That'll get you a 40. Next we're going to go with f of 2, which is up here. And then we'll have g prime of 2, which is down here. So multiply those and get yourself a 24. Add them up, get yourself a 64. All right, so there's a little product rule action. Next up, we'll go to 22. 22 is n prime of 0, which, if we look up at the top, n is a chain rule. That's not a product, that's a chain rule. We got f is inside, g is outside. So we're going to go take the derivative of the outside. And that would be this guy. So the derivative of g at the inside, that would be f, times the derivative of the inside, which is f prime. So here is the derivative of g, that's this, at the inside, that's that, and then times the derivative of the inside. There's your chain rule. Okay, that's all this is right here. If you don't know the chain rule yet, study it. All right, so then we're going to go ahead and plug in the 0. And like we did before, plug in a 0 here. That means plug in a 0 here and plug in a 0 here. So let me go back over here, clean that up. So we need f of 0 first. F of 0 is right here. Okay, so f of 0 is now a 2. Next, we need to go find f prime of 0. Well, that's going to be right here. That's your 8. Okay. Next, we need to go find what is g prime of 2 now that we have the 2 in there for the f of 0. So g prime of 2, new column, we're over here now. So g prime of 2 has to be that 4 right there. Then you get 4 times 8, 32. Done deal. All right, so fast forwarding to number 25, you have another chain rule. These are very similar right here. If you go over to 23, you have a j prime of x. Well, j of x, let's see up top here, j of x was a quotient. So we got f on the bottom, g on the top, which is the reversal of our notes when we first wrote down our quotient rule back in the day. So let's be careful. We're not going to go gf prime minus fg prime. It's reversed. So it's fg prime minus gf prime. And that's because we started with the g on the top and an f on the bottom. It's reversed compared to our notes, remember. All right, so it'll be f squared on the bottom instead. And again, it's just a matter of finding those values and plugging them all in. This is all having to do with 3's. If you see that, here's the 3 and the 3 and the 3 and the 3 and the 3. So at that point, we're going back to the table, and we're going to focus on just this column right here. Okay, everything's going to come from there. Okay, I'm not going to go through all the details there. Hopefully you can read through that and figure out how we got the 8 and the 6 and the 7 and the 6. Next up, we got k prime of 7. That's another, where is it up here? That is another one of those chain rules, and now it's f is outside. So we're going to take the derivative of the outside, that's f prime, at the inside, there's g of x, times the derivative of the inside, g prime of x. Swap out your x for a 7, and then recognize that once you've found g of 7, which is 3, let's double check on that. G of 7, here's g, bring them together. There we go. So this column, this row, where do they line up? Right here on the 3. Okay, so that's where we got this 3 right here. Now we need f prime of 3. So now we're looking at the 3 column. F prime, that's this row right here. So here we go. We need a 6 right there. So there's the 6. 6 times the negative 5. That was g prime of 7. G prime of 7 was right there, negative 5. Plug it in, multiply them. Done deal. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and let you know that we've already done an n prime of x, so you can go back to the previous problem to see how that came to be. But now you're plugging in ones, so check your work carefully. 26, we have a j prime of 7, another quotient rule. For 27, we have another quotient rule, but this time it was g on the bottom, f on the top. So it will be our traditional gf prime minus fg prime that you can see right here. And of course, you're going to go plug in values. Okay, g of 3, f prime of 3, and so on. It's all about the 3's on that one. So again, I recommend, if you got a table you're okay marking up and erasing again and again, when you know it's going to be all about the 3's, you focus on that row right there, or excuse me, that column. Last one is k prime of 9. That's another chain rule. We already did that specific derivative for the chain rule. So just go ahead and double check your work. Pay careful attention here. Recognize that you are starting by plugging in 9, but then it changes up once you know what g of 9 is, and it's a 3. Now you're going to a different column in the table. So just be careful with that. All right. I think that is it. That's the end of the worksheet. Hopefully that was helpful for you. And all right, we'll see you next time, guys.